ready for me to start? Okay, now I just want to explain a little bit about my this new piece of work that I've done, and this is I call the Church Lady. It reminds me of my mom, my aunts, and a lot of the people who I grew up among, a lot of the women that I grew up among, grew up with, and who helped to raise me and mold me and into the person I am today. And so it's clearly an African woman, and I want this piece which embodies a lot of the African characteristics. And because we spend so much of our time in church growing up as children, and this reminds me a lot of the women who came to the church. We went to a number of churches. We spent a lot of time in church. And so I had, as a young child, you had time to observe and to see how people dressed. You had time to observe the personalities and all of that. And I remember, from time to time, you will have visitors from overseas. White men will come, mostly white men, and some of them will come with their wives. And how different they would look from the women that I knew and the women that I grew up with. And I couldn't understand, because even though we're African people, in the church, I think one of the things that was missing is that who was the African? Why we look the way we look? Because I felt, even as a child, I felt that when white people came to our community, or came into our community, and came to visit, they were visitors. They were coming to us to visit us. They still felt that we were less than them. And I couldn't understand that. I really couldn't understand, because I couldn't find anything that they were better at than us. And as I grew and got an opportunity to travel extensively across the world, particularly in Africa, and I began to understand the African and the way of life of African people, and how African people evolve in terms of their physiology. And I began to admire and began to see different, and began to understand who, not just me, but we as a people, where we came from and who we really were, or who we are as a people, and how we evolve. And it's such a beautiful thing, because I don't care who you are. If you really want to understand the genesis of humanity, you have to go to Africa. And not only did I get an opportunity, a very beautiful opportunity, to be able to travel Africa, but I was also able to build a home in Africa. And so most of my work that I do, including this one, it reflects that African characteristics. It shows the hair, the hair follicles, and how tightly and how spaced out they are. And understanding too that now that first you want to know why Black people here are all like, we call it black pepper, or some people call it naps. But it's not there for style. It was there that the wind can pass through and keep the body at a certain temperature, so you wouldn't fade, because Africa is very hot. Especially in Harmattan season, it's very, very hot. And you need that air to be able to pass through and keep the body at a certain temperature. If you have the hair of a Caucasian, you have to either wet them constantly, or you have to cut your hair off, because that wouldn't fly with the heat of Africa. You understand? So, and that's one of the things. Even in terms of the nose, a lot of people when we were growing up, people say, "Oh, your nose is big," or you're broader than usual. Now, in comparison to what? We never say in compared to what on white it was like that. But if you look at a black nose, because they're coming from a hot climate, it's spread out. So it can cool the air down so it can go to the lungs at a certain temperature. Versus the ones who live in Iceland, the Caucasian who live in Iceland, his nose is longer and pointier, but on the reverse, it heats the air up. So he can be able to exist, and it goes to the lungs at the same temperature, at a certain temperature, so it can keep him going. So I just want to say in my work, what I'm actually showing, it's not just in terms of the dress and the beauty, but I'm also showing the actual, the physiology, how we evolve and why we look the way we look. And it's not based on beauty, it's based on environmental conditions, why we look. Because we can look and say, well, look about the elephants. I was in Botswana and, having an opportunity to go and observe and see the elephants and all that. And in Botswana, the elephants, look at their tusks. It's long. But they use that to pull the trees, high trees, bring food down to them. So everything that we have, everything that you have to learn to appreciate it, because nature gives you that you can survive. So you can't be, or allow people to make you feel bad about yourself and let people define who you are based on themselves. You understand? You have what you have because of your environment, because where you came from, and everything that you have, it suits you. It functions in the way it's supposed to function. Don't try to alter yourself and belittle yourself because somebody say, okay, you don't look the way that they look. You don't have to look like that. The elephant don't look like the cheetah. The elephant don't look like the giraffe. Everything is different, but everything has a unique purpose, and because it exists based on the environmental conditions. So that's basically what the stories I'm trying to use. For now, I'm using the black woman because it reminds me a lot of my mom and all the church sisters. So this is really the church sister. She's well dressed. Black people always are very spiritual. They're trying to keep that tradition, and they're very dignified, even in the way they dress. African people love to dress. If you go across Africa, you'll see people very well dressed, very well put together. They could be living in an area that is not so, like the West, fancy buildings and all that. But when you see they put themselves together, they're very well dressed. And this signifies all of that. And they love to decorate themselves, whether they're in Ethiopia, they could be in some place, a very remote village. They put beads on themselves. Even if they have to decorate themselves with mud, they will do that. And this represents that for me. And so I put it very prominently as a base, but this is a two-part. It could also be used just as a pot, but this is the top part of the sculpture. And so basically this is the church lady. And if you would like to have a piece of my work, that would be nice. You can just get your checkbook, and you can. But yes, I would like to encourage you to be able to come and get a piece of my work, if you so desirous of having something that reminds you and reflects us as a people. Not just you as an individual, but we're talking about people who have come a very far way and who still have a very long way to go in understanding who they are, who we are, and what we have accomplished. It's a long road. As Nelson Mandela said, a long walk to our freedom and liberation, total liberation. Thank you for listening to me and the explanation of and the motivation of what I do and why I do what I do. Thank you. And nobody expects me to produce that. And I'm saying I'm not like, I didn't come from learn under no great artists or anything. I don't think if I go to whatever, they won't teach me how to build this body of work.